All right. Welcome, guys. Welcome to another episode of the Pitchfork Podcast. We're gonna have a discussion today, man. We're gonna have a discussion today about some bad cops. Now, the first story that we got down the pipeline is not gonna be this story. It's gonna be this story is what we're gonna lead with. We're gonna lead with this story. So, apparently, the white Memphis police officer whose name is Preston Hemphill, man, he said some interesting things. So we're gonna make sure we get this out there, man. We're gonna make sure we get this out there for the people. I want you guys to see this real quick. I want you guys to see the irrationality of certain family members, right? Check this out. So, family, this is an update to the Tyre Nichols case. So, this story comes from The Independent. White Memphis police officer, whose name is Preston Hemphill, who was fired over what happened to Tyre Nichols, admitted he never saw reckless driving. And so, 5 officers have been charged over what happened with Tyre Nichols. So, I want you guys to see this, right? I want you guys to see why I don't listen to family members when they say, hey, my family member is a cop and they're a good person. I want you guys to see this, right? Because this also comes from the Daily Mail. Exclusive, they were doing what they were trained to do. Father of officer fired for his role in Tyre Nichols' case insists charged cops should not have been blamed for what happened to Tyre Nichols, and he will be alive if Tyre Nichols had followed orders. And so this is the father of Preston Hemphill, the same white officer whose name is Robert Hemphill. And he spoke with the Daily Mail, and he said that. So that's why I don't want to hear people say, well, my family member is a cop, and they're not a bad person. Because stories like this, usually you wouldn't see these kind of comparisons on channels, right? But you can see stories like this show you that people who have family members who are cops don't have the ability to be rational. I want you guys to see that, right? Because I want to go over this story, right? This story is absolutely fantastic, right? So, family, this is an update to the Tyre Nichols case. So, this is coming from the Daily Mail. I covered this previously, but I want you guys to see this, though. Exclusive. They were doing what they were trained to do. Father of the officer who was fired for his role in what happened to Tyre Nichols insists charged cops should not be blamed for what happened to Tyre Nichols, and Tyre Nichols would still be alive if Tyre Nichols had followed orders. Really, that's what he's saying here. Preston Hemphill, 26, was fired last week after Internal Affairs found that what happened to Tyre Nichols violated multiple department public policies. But his father, whose name is Robert Hemphill, spoke to DailyMail.com in his first interview given by a family member of one of the responding officers. And he says, quote, "It looks bad, but those 5 officers at the end, they're doing what they're supposed to do. They're doing what they were trained to do," end quote. And that's what Robert Hemphill, Preston Hemphill's father, said. Now, that is fascinating, don't you think? That is fascinating. This is why, once again, I don't want to hear people say, well, my family member is a cop and they're not a bad person. I don't want to hear that, because this shows you how irrational, how unbelievably irrational people can be when it comes to their family members, and how not objective they can be when it comes to their family members and cops, and how the cops interact with the public, how they relate to the public, and that family member's ability to look at the public's outcry for justice and look at the people who are doing the outcrying as human, right? Because I guarantee you, had Robert Hemphill talked to many of the family members who have been harmed by police officers or have loved ones who have been harmed by police officers, he wouldn't say stuff like this. And his father would go on to say stuff like this, quote, "I feel sorry for his mommy and daddy, but he could have stopped it at any moment. Roll over on your stomach, roll over. But when you don't roll over, what are you gonna do? You can't let him just get up and walk away. He could have had a gun. He could have been a kidnapper or molester. And that's why he's running," end quote. So all that goes through this man's mind. He couldn't think this person's innocent and there's random men attacking him. And Preston Hemphill, I'm going to remind you, Preston Hemphill, the same officer, openly admitted that Tyre Nichols was never engaging in reckless driving. So Tyre Nichols was running because this was not police action. This was 5 random officers plus a 6th fat officer named Preston Hemphill tasering him, attacking this man. This was not the reason why he was running. He wasn't running because he was a criminal. He was running because criminals were attacking him. This is why, once again, I don't want to hear about how your family member is a police officer. I don't want to hear it. I don't want to hear it. I just don't want to hear it. And I'm going to cover this case too. And mind you, every article that I'm going over, I'm pressing record so I can give you guys independent content. That way you ain't got to watch the whole stream to get one particular story. You know what I'm going to do is on TikTok and on YouTube and everything else. I'm going to edit these videos. I'm going to cut them down and make sure I cut out all the dead air and make them, a lot of them shorts. But I'm doing this for you guys so that I can cover this stuff live and show you how I do my work. Show you that I can do this live. You know, I don't have to necessarily sit behind a computer desk and just edit everything down. I can do this live. And so, you know, I want you guys to see that. So anyways, let's cover this story here. Let's get into this. So family, this is an update to the Tyre Nichols case. White Memphis police officer whose name is Preston Hemphill admitted that Tyre Nichols was never engaging in reckless driving. We all knew this, but let's get deeper into this story. So new documents shed light on alleged actions of Preston Hemphill, one of the 6 Memphis police officers fired over what happened to Tyre Nichols. Mr. Hemphill, who joined the MPD in 2019, was fired last week for violating department policies. Mr. Hemphill, who joined MPD in 2019, was fired last week for violating department policies around personal conduct, truthfulness, evidence handling, and the use of a taser stun gun. Officials from the MPD are seeking to have him decertified from doing police work in Memphis, and new documents before the state's Peace Officer Standards and Training Commission further describe the former officer's actions on the night of 7 January. And so they describe how he told investigators that the police stopped Nichols for driving at a high speed, but later admitted to never seeing any reckless driving. So there was no reckless driving. Tyre Nichols was pulled over for no reason. For no reason. There we go. There, I lost the audio there for a second. Let me check something out real quick. Give me a quick second, because I lost audio there for a second. I didn't like that at all. I didn't like that at all. All right, so let's check this out again. Let's try that again. So family, this is what happens. Actually, let me All right, so family, we have an update to the Tyre Nichols case. So the white Memphis police officer, whose name is Preston Hemphill, was fired over what happened to Tyre Nichols, and he admitted that he never saw reckless driving. So let's get deeper into this story. And so new documents shed light on alleged actions of Preston Hemphill, one of the 6 Memphis police officers fired over what happened to Tyre Nichols. Mr. Hemphill, who joined MPD in 2019, was fired last week for violating department policies, personal conduct, truthfulness, evidence handling, and the use of a taser stun gun. Officials from the MPD are seeking to have him decertified from doing police work in Memphis. And new documents show that he admitted to never seeing any reckless driving. And the chief of Memphis Police has previously admitted that there is no proof of reckless driving that would have necessitated the violent traffic stop where officers ultimately harmed Tyre Nichols. And later, the officer told investigators Nichols was fighting with officers and tried to grab one of the officers' guns, even though police video footage of the arrest shows no such thing occurring. This guy lied from beginning to end, and this young man lost his life, and there was never any reckless driving. There was never any high-speed driving. These officers are murderers. Straight up and down. Straight up and down. Without question. There is no debate now. There was never any reason for that stop, and we have proof now. So I don't want to hear people say, well, you know, if he had just obeyed the law, there's no proof now that he ever did anything wrong. Do you get that now? There never was any proof. So now I got to ask the question, why was this man ever pulled over in the first place? I gotta ask that question now. Someone has to answer that question, and that someone should be the pigs. Why was Tyree Nichols? Why did Tyree Nichols ever lose his life? That's my question now. What happened to Tyree Nichols? Why did he ever lose his life? If the officer involved is saying, hey, there was never any need to pull him over, then what happened? Why did he lose his life? And why do you want the black community to just accept that? See, this happens to so many other black young men, and the reaction that we gave to Tyree Nichols, to George Floyd, to Tamir Rice, to a Michael Brown, to so many other cases, it's not so much that we are so outraged over what happened to Tyree Nichols. It's that we're tired of being outraged over what happens to the Tyree Nichols of the world. We know what happens with police with police departments. It's that white America is so stubborn that you will hire Negroes who are fake black activists. You will put black police chiefs, black sheriffs in high positions, and then you want us to trust them, knowing that they're only going to carry out your will. And then when we complain, you'll then point out to those buck dancing Sambo coons and then say, hey, we gave you what you wanted even though you didn't listen to us in the first place. Lord, ain't that something? Ain't that something, y'all? Wow. 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 Block Club Chicago. I gotta show them a little love. You know what it is? I haven't even checked into the story all that much, so I'm gonna read over the story, man. So I'm gonna do a long form on this one here. So family, we have a story from Block Club Chicago. Want to show them a little bit of love. Unclear if man who's unalive by cops fired at officers. Oversight agency says, contradicting top cops account. Superintendent David Brown said the man shot at officers who shot back, who unalived him near an Irving Park neighborhood bar. Police oversight officials recovered a gun, but said it is not clear if the man fired at officers at all. So the man whom police shot and unalived in Irving Park this week may have not fired shots at officers, police oversight officials said, despite what Superintendent David Brown previously claimed. The shooting occurred around 3 a.m. Wednesday. Two officers, a 12-year veteran and a probationary officer, responding to a call from a bouncer at Christina's Place, 3759 North Kinsey Avenue, about a man pointing a gun at people outside the business, police said. The responding officer spotted the man, ran after him into an alley in the 3700 block of North Troy Street, and fatally shot the man after an apparent exchange of gunfire, Brown said at a press conference. From what we know, based on looking at the body-worn camera, the offender fired his weapon and the officers fired their weapon, Brown said. But the body camera footage shows when officers first arrived on scene until the shooting. Ephraim Eady, the agency's first deputy chief administrator, said in a statement. As officers ran after the man, they ordered him to get on the ground, Eady said. The man fell, at which point the officers told the man to stay down, Eady said. The man tried to get up, and then both officers shot at him several times. It's not clear, nor has it been determined by COPA, if the individual discharged his weapon at police. Authorities recovered a gun after the shooting. So basically, right, they found someone who had a firearm, who they claim had a firearm, and many people in Chicago do. Then they chase this person, they fire at them, they recover a gun, and many people in America carry guns. And they recover a gun after the fact, even though there's no proof. If there was proof that that these officers were fired at, trust me, it would have came out. It would have been apparent. So shout out to Block Club Chicago. I wanted to cover this story because, you know, stories like this need to be out there. It needs to be out there because people have to see that there's more to police corruption and police brutality than just the stories that you hear about or the stories that people march in the streets about. All right? ACAB. Fascinating case, right? All right. So, family, this story comes from San Antonio in Texas, and this comes from the San Antonio Current. Fired San Antonio police officer pleads guilty to family violence to stay out of jail. Adam Franklin Alonzo pleaded guilty last month to a single misdemeanor count of assault causing bodily injury, family violence, according to a news report. A San Antonio police officer booted from the force last year after an indictment in Kendall County on child abuse charges has struck a plea deal to avoid serving time. Adam Franklin Alonzo pleaded guilty last month to a single misdemeanor count of assaulting and causing bodily injury, family violence, the station reports, citing his plea agreement. Rather than go to jail, the 30-year-old will serve 1 year of probation and attend parenting classes. So basically, he won't spend any time in jail and will have to do parenting classes. Wow, Blue Lives Matter. That's what I call accountability. That's what I call accountability. I mean, stuff like this shows you that what I've been saying about police officers have been true. They face no accountability. They are allowed to do whatever they want to do, and then they are allowed to put on that badge and treat you, the citizen, the exact same way they treat their family members. They are allowed to beat the hell out you, rape your children, kill your children, and get away with it. I mean, how many stories like this daily do I got to report on, right, for people to get the point? How many stories like this daily? Daily. I mean, dang. Come on now. That is just absurd. That's just absurd. Absurd. Let's get into this one. I want you guys to see this, man. This is amazing. This is amazing, right? I want y'all to see this. This here, this is amazing. I need to pull from this a little bit. So I want you guys to see this, man. This is Uvalde. This is an update about Uvalde. Yeah, man. I have to smoke something, man, before I cover this story. Just read the headline, man. Read the headline. And understand why I got to smoke something before I cover this story. My Lord. Let's get into it. So, family, this story comes from Texas, and it's an update to Uvalde. Texas State Police won't punish more officers over Uvalde. Texas State Police will not discipline any more of its officers over the Uvalde massacre that left 19 children and two teachers unalived as heavily armed agents hesitated to confront the lone gunman. So basically, this decision is a turning point nearly 9 months after one of the worst school attacks in U.S. history and the widespread outrage over the officers who allowed more than 70 minutes to go by before stopping the massacre. And so there are no more Texas State Police officers who will be punished. All those officers who sat outside, who did nothing while those children were being harmed, they won't face any punishment. And I want you guys to understand something, right? I want you guys to get this. Police officers have no constitutional duty to protect you or your children. So why in the world do you vote to fund them? They are useless. Useless, I say. So you won't punish any more of them, huh? No more of them, huh? It's guys. Don't punish the police officers, guys. They have a job too. What is their job? Well, they serve and protect. No, they don't. No, they don't. Who are they serving and protecting in this situation? Please tell me. I listen, Blue Lives Matter, I'm all ears. I'm all ears. Let me know. Somebody let me know. What is it that they do? What is it that they do? I mean, if you're not going to punish officers for not protecting children, then what is it that you do? I got to know. I got to know. Because all the officers who have been disciplined so far, those are not all the officers who were present, who did nothing for more than 70 minutes. So what is it that you do if you're not facing accountability for not protecting children? I mean, what is it that police officers do if you're not protecting children and you involved in, and you won't even fire the officers who did this? And you want me to trust police officers? Are you out of your mind? Are you high? I mean, I know I'm high, but the people out there who want me to trust police officers, you must be doing some freaking hard crack. Okay? You want me to send my federal dollars, military gear, all this stuff to cowards. People are like, oh, well, you haven't done a job, excuse me, multiple time combat veteran. Worked law enforcement. Try again, son. Rated at 100%. You don't get to that level commonly, son. Try again, son. Try again. Most police officers, when they talk to me, they speak from a position of respect. Because they understand they've never faced stuff that I faced. Listen, this apartment complex that I live in, the only way I can afford to live here is because I'm rated at 100%. I don't have to work. I choose to work. So I want people to understand that, right? The fact that I'm doing this for free, that I'm shitting on cops for free. When I worked in the goddamn field, that lets you know how bad they truly are. I'm doing this shit for free. Okay? Okay? I want you all to see this story here. All right. Oh man. I'm not gonna cover that one. That's a little too spicy for me. I'm gonna leave that one alone. So I want you guys to see how I do some of my news stories, right? So you see how I typed this in, right? I put officer fired and I set it into 24 hours. I want you guys to see this, right? So I'm gonna type in officer charged. Let's see what we get within a 24-hour period. Okay, so we already got a story here. All right, we already got a story here. So we gonna keep with this going. All right, so we're gonna cover this story, right? All right, so let's get into it. So family, this story comes from Arizona. A former Mesa police officer has been charged with endangerment because he fired multiple shots at a fleeing vehicle. And so we find out that a police officer, whose name is Kalen Hall, has been indicted by a grand jury because of a traffic stop that happened on July the 2nd of 2022. Wow, Blue Lives Matter. I gotta ask you a question. What is it with you and your police officers just firing random shots at citizens? You know, it just shows you that instead of you trying to give chase, or instead of you just letting that person go, because you know the clearance rates for charges like SA or people getting harmed, or women and children being harmed by these Catholic priests or these Boy Scout leaders, you know, the clearance rates for those crimes are incredibly low. So you can certainly afford to allow this person to drive off who's probably done nothing of the sort. So why is it that it's your first reaction to shoot at that particular person? You just enjoy doing that, don't you? Admit it. Admit it. Like I just, they let pedophile priests, Jeffrey Epstein, Boy Scout leaders, and all these other rapists just walk free, right? But they shoot at unarmed black people. Make it make sense. The fact that you even have a whole wing of sex offenders who are still alive, but people who are unarmed, people who just sell weed, people who just sell drugs, people who are prostitutes, those are people who are behind bars. None of those people should be behind bars. Every pedophile, every sex offender, those are the people cops should be George Floyding. Those are the people I would have no issue with. I listen. Black people, we have an issue when you target decent people, when you shoot unarmed people. If you were to target a Catholic priest while they're in the act of doing something bad to a child, who in their right mind is going to stop you? In fact, the general public, if they catch an officer attacking a Catholic priest who's going after a freaking little boy, we might help you. We might actually jump in and actually assist you. We might actually give you a Gatorade to help you refuel. Seriously. No cap. So the thing is that the way that black people know that the police target us, right, is that you target people who are doing the most menial tasks, the most normal, everyday stuff. Like Elijah McClain walking down the street, Tamir Rice playing with a toy gun, Breonna Taylor sleeping, Sandra Bland driving, Philando Castile in a car driving with a legal gun, with a very much legal gun. So many others. People who are just doing everyday things that you would think, hey, I should be able to do this and I won't end up dead for it. That's not how U.S. law enforcement works, unfortunately, because they are the Slave Patrol. And the Slave Patrol, the way that they operate is inward. You don't get to live in peace. You don't get to ride down the street. You don't get to sleep in your own bed. You don't get to enjoy your own home. You don't get to have a farm like they treating our brothers and sisters out there in Colorado. You don't get to have life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness. You know, it's not the Epsteins that they are unaliving, right? Because Epstein, it took him to almost and taking out, I think it's 4 men, up to 4 women, 4 men, and they found bodies underneath his home. And they put that dude as his roommate, as Jeffrey Epstein's roommate. And the correctional officers just so happen to be asleep. The cameras just so happen to not be working. They just so happen to not be doing the checks. And they just so happen to put him as a roommate with an NYPD police officer who had killed multiple people and buried them underneath his home. And now you want me to believe that Blue Lives Matter and law enforcement wasn't involved in Jeffrey Epstein. Fuck out of here. Fuck out. I want you guys to see this shit because this shit here, once you see this shit, I want you to see this, right? I want you to see this fucking gorilla of a man. This fucking gorilla of a man. This dude's a fucking gorilla. Like this is not even, I'm not even bullshitting you. This dude is a fucking gorilla. Like, he's built. There is nothing this man. And tell me this dude is not the one who took out Jeffrey Epstein. Right? Family, I believe that cops and Blue Lives Matter took out Jeffrey Epstein. And here's why I believe that, right? I want you to see this, right? Epstein told lawyers that his cellmate, Nicholas Tartaglione, roughed him up. And now, who is Nicholas Tartaglione? Nicholas Tartaglione is a former NYPD police officer who unalived multiple people and buried them under his home, right? And they put this guy as Jeffrey Epstein's roommate. And this guy, let me show you what this guy looked like. So Jeffrey Epstein said that this guy roughed him up. This is what Nicholas Tartaglione looks like. Look at that picture. Look at this man. He is a monster. This dude is built like a Marvel superhero. And Jeffrey Epstein said this dude was hurting him. Look at this dude. Blue Lives Matter. And then even the correctional officers, they fell asleep, weren't doing the checks. And on top of that, some people have said they were even involved, y'all. Blue Lives Matter and cops took out Epstein to cover up for their rich partners. Yo, I told y'all. Look at this. Epstein told lawyers that cellmate Nicholas Tartaglione roughed him up. It's a former NYPD police officer, right, who took out multiple people. Nicholas Tartaglione, this big muscle-bound monster dude right here, this monster, this man who looks like a Marvel fucking superhero, this dude, my God, I have not seen. Listen, there's very few people on the streets who you're gonna see who's more built than this motherfucker. And he was always like, this, look at that man. He looks like Captain America. And you're telling me this dude had nothing to do with Epstein. Fuck out of here. Bruh, if y'all don't stop this shit. How come nobody can't just call it, bruh? How come nobody can't just call it, bruh? Call it, bruh. He killed Epstein, bro. This man yeeted Epstein, bro. This man already took out multiple people and buried him under his goddamn home. The fuck you mean he didn't goddamn do it? Man, listen. There's people out here who show up in my fucking comment section saying silly shit, right? They'll say silly shit. Like they'll be like, well, we don't know that beyond a shadow of a doubt, and we don't know this, and we don't know beyond a shadow of a doubt, and we need absolute evidence. Shut your ass up. Shut your ass up. Excuse me. You wouldn't even be in the same room with a man who's this built if you knew this man had took out multiple people. Ain't no way in fucking hell you telling me you gonna be in the same room with a man who looks like this, who took out multiple people, who had the wherewithal to bury those people underneath his goddamn home. Shit. He buried the bodies. And this was a cop. Imagine, so cops usually get away with murders on the job. They just gotta shoot a freaking black person. So how many people has this man actually killed that the NYPD just defended him and they were propping up a mass murderer? Because he was already a mass murderer outside of freaking police work. So what the fuck was he doing on the damn job, man? Bruh. This is some shit, bruh. This is some shit, bruh. Lord have mercy. I try to tell folks. Blue Lives Matter. I try to tell folks. They don't want to listen. You can see this shit, man. Bruh, I told you. I told you. I told you. Wow. Let's get deeper into this story. So, family, we have an update to the Tyre Nichols case. Former Memphis police officer who was charged in the Tyre Nichols case allegedly beat jail inmate years earlier. The beating was so bad that 34 other inmates signed a letter to the corrections director. Wow. So, one of the former police officers here, whose name is Demetrius Haley, back in 2015, assaulted an inmate so badly that 34 inmates, an entire cell block, signed a letter to the corrections director. So basically, inmates saw what happened, right? Demetrius Haley. They saw what happened. This guy. And they signed a letter. And that is rare to happen for that kind of solidarity against one officer. So, basically, what this shows you is that Blue Lives Matter, police, and society and the government knew about this guy, and they did nothing. They decided to make him a police officer anyways, and Tyre Nichols paid the cost. Wow. Wow. Poor Tyre Nichols. He paid the cost, huh? Poor Tyre Nichols paid the cost. Now, this one is a fresh news story. This is a fresh news story right here. Now, this is going to be fresh news off the press. Now, this one here, many people ain't even talking about. But I'm going to talk about it, though. So, family, we have an update to the Tyre Nichols case. Former Memphis police officer charged in Tyre Nichols case assaulted another black motorist days before lawsuit claims. So, just days before what happened to Tyre Nichols, someone says that the other officers, right, were engaging in police brutality. Montarius Harris has filed a $5 million lawsuit against the officers in the city of Memphis, claiming he was attacked on January the 4th, just 3 days before Tyre Nichols was beaten. The officer, he was like, "Stop reaching for the gun," Harris said, "and I know that I didn't have a gun. I didn't know what else to do besides just let him do what they were doing to me." The 22-year-old Army veteran was booked. Well, wait a minute. We got to redo this one. Oh, man. That one hurt my heart. Did y'all see that? Army veteran. That hurt my heart right there. That hurt my heart right there. Oh, that hurt my heart. That hurt my heart right there, man. We gotta redo that one. So, family, we have an update to the Tyre Nichols case. Former Memphis police officer charged in what happened to Tyre Nichols assaulted a black combat veteran, a black Army veteran, just days before the lawsuit. Wow. That's just... Family, a police officer who was charged in what happened to Tyre Nichols assaulted a black veteran just days before what happened to Tyre Nichols. Let's look into this. Montarius Harris filed a $5 million lawsuit against the officers in the city of Memphis, claiming he was attacked on January the 4th, just 3 days before what happened to Tyre Nichols. The officer, he was like, "Stop reaching for the gun," Harris said. "And I know that I didn't have a gun. I didn't know what else to do besides just let them do what they were going to do to me." The 22-year-old Army veteran was booked on a charge of gun possession as a convicted felon. Harris spent several days in jail. Attorneys for the 5 charged officers had no comment on the lawsuit. Wow. So this story just gets worse and worse and worse for Blue Lives Matter and police officers the more it continues. Wow. Blue Lives Matter. I gotta ask you, how are y'all feeling lately? I gotta ask you, how is Blue Lives Matter? How are y'all doing lately? It can't be good. It can't be good. Can't be. Can't be. Right? Can't be. Right? All right. Let's get into this one. This is going to be the last story of the day. So, family, this story comes from Texas. An ex-Clifton police officer has been charged with deadly conduct endangering. Now, former Clifton police officer Vincent Megason was taken into custody on warrants charging deadly conduct and endangering someone who's a kid. Police obtained the arrest warrants on February 9th, and the new charges are not related to a previous case involving Megason. So, he was also involved in another case. So, man, oh man, Blue Lives Matter, who are y'all hiring to bring on so many psychotic police officers? You know, I keep reporting on cases like this every single day. It gets to the point where I'm almost tired of reporting on them, and I want to just tell Blue Lives Matter, please, for the love of goodness, stop hiring criminal police officers. It's not that difficult. The average person that I meet in a day is not a criminal, so how are you hiring criminals on average? Goodness gracious, and that's going to be the end of the show, guys. Thank you so much for joining me, man. I have had a blast. It's been interesting, to say the least. Interesting. Fascinating, to say the least. Thank you for all your support. For looking out for me when times are rough, man. That isn't lost on me. I love you all. Horns up, peace out. Good night, and good luck.